Hello and welcome back to Yellow Card TCG, everyone. We are continuing on with the VPL finals. We're here in Game 6 and we've got Ootman versus Steveyouth. So this is the Messiah mirror from someone who is, probably Messiah's biggest fan, more so than me, I'm willing to admit. And then we've got someone who's been playing Vanguard since only the start of VPL. So that's going to be really exciting to watch. I'm joined here today by Jake, also known as Demiios.
Everyone.
So you'll be able to
Super
find
glad to be
him
here.
on X. The link will be down below. Introduce yourself.
I've been playing Vanguard competitively for about 2 years now, although I've been in the game for 10 plus years. Some regional wins, including those teaming up with Ootman, so I'm very excited to see what he has in store for us.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where obviously, we both know that Ootman's one of the biggest Messiah fans in the world, so he's definitely got the experience coming to this matchup. But like I mentioned at the beginning of the season, Steve is, in my opinion, one of the best Weiss players in the UK. So he knows card games, he's got the fundamentals down, and he's got a solid, I think it's a 3, it's a 4-3, something along those lines, track record with Messiah of the VPL so far. So it's not going to be like a walk in the park for Ootman, but he does have
No,
experience advantage going in here. So Steve going first, so I assume he's lost the dice roll. While they're taking their first few turns, what observations do you have about the mirror match? What do these players have to think about?
uh, they have to think about deck size if it goes to long game, because they're both going to be going through the decks very fast. So if the game doesn't come down to the grade 2 game, if they decide to ride up immediately, it could come down to deck size. Or usually how the mirror goes is it goes to grade 2 game, and whoever rides up first just cannot sustain themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either going to be grade 2 game or deck out,
Yeah,
is what I've seen.
and I think it's gonna be the deck out plan because Ootman here has got the rush. He's got absolutely everything. Steve had to discard a crit for the ride to ride deck. Meanwhile, Ootman's still the energy cycler, so got to draw an extra card beyond going second, and has the tri-lane going attacks. Steve there not hitting any defensives, which is brutal.
That is very unfortunate. I believe that Ootman is on front, so swinging rears first here could be punished, but it's not. We get another cycler. That is a rough
Yep.
situation to be in. Another card to be drawn by Ootman.
Yeah, so even after turn 2, even though he's committed this full board, he's still got 7 cards in hand. Steve's only just hit 7 now because he had to guard. So you've made a board for effectively free, which is again really rough. Steve finds his own cycler, so it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I think given that he's on 2-0, he could try and rush back, but I don't. Oh, he does have Liel Valtrosses, so that's a huge asset for him. He gets to recycle the energy cycler, make another body
And
on top.
you have to put the card back first, right? Has he decided not to?
I think you have to. You think it's optional putting the card back.
Yeah, so he's decided not to. Okay.
Yeah, so
So we're not
not
playing for deck
recycling.
out for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not recycling, not putting the energy cycler back to use it again later is going to be interesting. But yeah, like you say, it's one less card out of the deck makes it harder for him to win that deck out game. Plus, given that he's on this higher damage, even if he makes a board, regardless of whether he goes rear into rear and just breaks down Ootman's board, or just goes rushing face in to even out the damage, he's still going to be incentivized to ride up first, and that's going to really hurt
Mhm.
his ability to build that pressure.
Mm, I suppose it's not deck thickening
Mm-hmm.
for triggers, so maybe we could see a heal come out because of that. Swinging
Sacrifice
rear
goes
first.
in. He's going to go into the rear, which I really like there.
Ooh.
I think there's even an argument to going this Valtrossa into the rear as well.
Yeah, there's an argument for that.
And that's
If it
exactly what we
was
see
pure
happen.
damage denial, I think we'd see Vanguard into rear first, but we're not going to see any damage denial.
Mm-hmm. No trigger. The Master Doge is nice to have.
Yeah, it's a big ride up, especially if we have the energy cycler in drop, which could be guarded with the new grade 1s from Festival.
Yep. Interesting to note here, Ootman's still running Flat and Suffery, that grade 2 in the damage zone, so not sure if that's a tech specifically for the mirror, or if that's something he's been playing, but
I believe it's for all the Stride deck grade
mm,
2 games.
yeah, it is your one of the few pieces of tempo you have. Rather than being a plus like Valtrossa is, this one takes down your opponent's board, which helps you to really push that grade 2 matchup where if you're both choosing to not ride, having a grade 2 that retires one and then swings into the other side, like, can really punish your opponent for committing.
Yeah, with why attack into a rear if you can just get rid of it? What will Ootman find off this top 5?
Finds a Mikani.
Mikani, okay.
So Mikani can at least attack back into the sacrifice, so they're both down a sacrifice, which is pretty good. Worth mentioning here as well that Steve's Valtrossa found him the Prelude of Genesis order, which is a little bit rough because that's 0 shield he's going to have in his hand. And it's not like, with the flat and suffering gone, it's not like Steve's going to need the order to recycle his pieces either.
Yeah, it seems Steve swinging into both rears last turn kind of signals to me what's kind of in his hand
Which
with
is
the
not
hand
very
quality
much shield
of
value.
finding the order.
Yeah. So yeah, now Bootman's going to play to his front triggers and try and get some pushes on the board. Any defensive Steve's finds here can still be used
Ooh,
for rear to rear. Crit is huge.
that. Where's the power gonna go? Because you got 16 on the side. Where's that 18?
It
Because of the
is
+2.
yeah, it's 18 because of the +2 from the safe third. Heal is life for
Heal?
Steve. That's a huge heal. Because now importantly, it turns off that Valtrossa attack, so the Valtrossa will probably go into the sacrifice. The safe third column does still hit her defensive. And it's still a 10k shield, which is a really awkward number to ask for in this early game here.
Yeah, it's a little less awkward because I believe that Steve is on 10k heals, as we just saw.
Mm-hmm.
But if Steve does not have one of those, it is, as you said, very awkward.
So yeah, we're just going to use Valtrossa to intercept whatever got attacked. And then this last one's coming in. And here's the, again, like, Steve's definitely on the back foot, because no matter whether he guards or takes this, he's still going to be incentivized to ride up to grade 3, because he either needs to recoup the hand loss from guarding, or he needs to have that crit pressure to even out the damage race.
It's very interesting how we're seeing these two. We're starting to see the differences between the builds. It seems like Ootman has opted for much more of a grade 2 centric build,
Mm-hmm.
while it seems like Steve may just have to ride up in hopes of getting that advantage back with that Mars Doge.
Yeah.
7 cards in hand for Ootman. That is a very good place to be with 3 cards on board,
One of which
with
being a
3
safe
lanes that can
ed.
all hit. Yeah. Thinking about the discard, it would seem.
I think it would make sense for it to be the Masters, but I don't think Steve's seen any safe eds yet, which makes this very difficult.
Wonder what he's checking drop for. Confirming no safe hits, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Steve's path to victory here could be?
I think he should probably stay on grade 2 here. Like, sure, we know that he's got the Master Doge and the Prelude in hand, so that's 2 out of 2 of his cards in hand being 0k shield. But at this point now, Uman's on 0 damage. If he tries to damage deny and just go like Vanguard into Valtrossa, pull back the sacrifice, and just play it slow, he can maybe like bait Uman into riding up first. But no, we're just gonna see him ride to grade 3 here. Take the draw off of the Master Doge. And like I don't hate this play either. He's like trading long term pressure for short term draw to try and even it out. Like he is 1 PG in the damage zone, so and on 4 damage. So being able to survive the first stride from Uman is asking a lot. But we
I
do
think we'll have to
see
see.
Prelude for our Arrester, which I do like.
Okay. Going for the Mikani lock.
I'm not sure I like that one. I would much rather see the safe herd lock. Because
Yeah,
then when it unlocks, it goes to bind, and then you deny Uman the ability to cycle back, which is also really strong.
I think that's more valuable than the Mikani, because I
Mm-hmm.
believe Ootman already has a decent sized soul.
Yeah, he used one Makani earlier. Like he's +2 soul because he's called 2 Makanis. The other one is off the board. But yeah, like also see that Steve having to call down the alter ego onto the board just to hit numbers. And I'm not sure if his list is playing Destiny. A lot of modern Messiah lists nowadays have cut it all together.
Looks like we're seeing some damage denial here, or at least looking to in case we hit some crits, in which case that might change, but
Mm-hmm.
see how that goes.
There's a Valtrosser, which has kind of lost value at this point, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And an
Now,
Arrester.
if Steve is damage denying here, that could be punished by a Prelude in Ootman's hand, right?
Yes.
So we'll see how that works out. Alright, the Makani gets bound thanks to the crest.
Yeah. And I feel like, as we said, he was going to call that Arrester, because, sorry, the alter ego, in case he got crit, so he put something too. But I
Hmm.
feel like having the sacrifice in the front to hold a crit would still have been fine. It would have been 18 with one crit, which is sure 10k shield to guard, but it still puts Uben in an awkward position because he does want damage, but he doesn't want 2 damage, and he doesn't want to
Yeah,
like again worth giving up 10k shield for. But yeah,
and then you
so
could still keep the alter ego in hand for fodder.
exactly. So Uben not having any fodder there drops the Master to stride, so no counter block. So yeah, no prelude. Draw off the Master, Arrester to come out probably, and
Add
then
back
this
Marstoge.
the safer they're making its value clear, signifying to Steve he probably should have hit that instead. So at the very least, he won't be able to use the alter ego's on stride effect to lock the awaking. But then he can
Yeah,
just choose not to call it out actually, because he can then
yeah.
just call it out on the next stride turn and still get the value out of it.
And if he wants, he could just call Soul Blast it out even, in
Mm-hmm.
if he doesn't find need for it next turn.
So he does have the sacrifice, so he still will be able to get the 4 attacks down. Master comes down, Soul charges a PG, but it's still a 23k attacker.
This is what I really like about Marstoge. If you don't find the double self lockers, even for a non multi attack turn, it's just a big beat stick because you're a grade
Mm-hmm.
4.
Exactly. And it gives you the soul as well, which is a resource that you definitely want. Alec here only going to be able to get 2 self lockers on the board, so end of turn GB2 will only draw him 2 cards. But there's a good chance that we might not even see the end of this turn. Like this might just be more pressure than Steve can handle.
We are going to see the 4 attack turn thanks to the counter charge.
And I would assume all the power to the Mastoge line here because it's already huge. Nope, looks like also the Arrester. So yeah, so both sides are going to be 38k coming in.
Yeah, I forgot that Alec had called the self locker booster as well. So
Mm-hmm.
we are going to see the multi attack. We're just getting numbers, so that.
I think
Are you
they're
aware of
both
the size of?
38.
Are you aware of the size of the hand for Steve?
Steve, it looks like 6 or 7 from the judging from the shadows. But not a full count. But yeah, this is. It definitely doesn't look good. So we see the PG come down.
That is the second one in public, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So a crit on a rear could be devastating.
But no, we're
But
going to
we
get
don't see one.
3 blanks. So that's good news for Steve. He's got the chance to claw it back. I mean, it is still an uphill battle. Like, sure, Alec doesn't have much shield, but he's only on 1 damage. So it's not like you're going to OTK him from this position. We'll
Yeah,
take
one
their.
damage. Any one defensive can really just make first stride so much more livable.
Mm-hmm. Second 38 comes down here. Steve needs to drop quite a bit of shield.
Thinking about it. No defensives on that one damage. Really, just no defensives at all this game that really were highly impactful is
Mm-hmm.
just really just tough.
Interesting he uses the energy blast there. I feel like he's got enough damage. He probably could have comfortably paid counter blast for that.
Yeah. Maybe see another safer.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, because you'd be at a higher grade.
Whoop. There's a second one there.
Maybe that's why we use the energy blast.
Mm-hmm.
2 counter blast could be a bit much to use.
I think it's fine because you're already on 5. You still had 2 face up, and you've got the sacrifice in the back row.
Yeah, you do have the sacrifice.
Yeah. Of course, again, we haven't seen a single safer yet, so there's a chance that he just might not have any.
Could also be saving the CB for Vault Rosa, bring out another multi attack.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what Steve does with it.
So find
Our
another
Stoge of
master.
his own.
That's the second one because you saw one for the grade 3 right up. So
Yeah,
he's
that's not
definitely
added back to
clawing
grade 3.
back pieces there. And unlike Alec, he's got the counter blast to pull out the awaking.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll get to see what, one, two, three, at least three unlocks at the end of turn GB2, maybe even a fourth if he gets a little bit lucky and can replace the alter ego.
There we are, stride skill.
And then getting rid of the sacrifice. Interesting.
Okay. Trying to limit CB usage. Or just draws in general because he only has one self locker and he can still swing into the attacker.
Mm-hmm. Now, a really awkward thing for Steve in this position, though, is that his self lockers are in separate columns.
Mm.
Unless he makes another one. Okay, never mind. He makes another one.
Okay.
So this is nice 5 attacks. Pretty, not as huge because there's no Master, but the numbers are still decent. Might be able to put quite a
Yeah.
bit of pressure on Alex here, like 3 to 4 damage. We're gonna see rear into rear, which I don't hate.
And now Alec has 0 self lockers on board. But we did see him drive check one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was Valtrossa, Arresta, and I think a Mastoge. And then we do have to consider the draw 2 from Ootman's GB2, so there's a chance that there is a good chance that he guards a lot of this, but I think in the first like 2 or 3 attacks, he's definitely incentivized to take what he can.
There's also the route of guarding this and then taking Vanguard in
Yeah,
case it goes long.
absolutely. And then the only thing you lose to at that point is crit OT.
Yeah. Looks what you may be going for is the value play.
Yep. Just saving as many cards, like guarding with the least number of cards he can. Because the thing to consider about Messiah as well is that a lot of the cards that you end up with in hand are usually combo pieces, like your arresters, your sacrifices, your alter egos that you want to use to go into the Excelix. So like, your hand might be full of like 10 5k shields, which is quite a bit of guard. But of those 10, maybe there's only like 4 or 5 that you actually want to use. So we're going to dump the power onto the one in front of the sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. Drawing.
The important thing there in this mirror match is that Alter Ego's GB2 works on your opponent's turn as well. So you get to draw 3 to 4 cards based on their Amnesty Messiah, which absolutely massive there.
Yeah, I've never played the mirror match, but it is always a little funny seeing that. A little bit of extra interactivity. Because even if your opponent gets rid of your self lockers, you can still just use your soul from theirs.
So Alex is going to take his 3 cards and say no guard. PG goes in and Valtrossa. So no defensives, which is good, Steve. But with 3 to 4 extra cards in hand, there's no way he can't guard at least one of these.
Yeah, even though he doesn't have to because he's only a 3, which I think is possible, but I think Ootman will just end up guarding one, if not both of these.
Mm-hmm. You maximizing the value out of his shield there. Another thing to mention as well is that Ootman got to do the GB2 on your turn play first because he has more experience as we'd expect. But it's also very important that, again, Steve being as a good Weiss player, I think he will learn from that and he'll notice me like, oh, I can do that. And then definitely going into next turn, like during Ootman's turn now, I'm almost certain that Steve will have that thought in his mind, be like, oh, when he unlocks his stuff, I will draw some cards.
I believe he just went down to 0 soul.
So maybe not, yeah. And again, like the Mastoge and the Mekani's there, like really putting in that little bit of extra work for Ootman.
Yeah, I think we'll see those strong card game fundamentals come in when we see that happen either 2 turns from now or in game 2.
Mm-hmm.
Which will be exciting, seeing how the players learn and grow even inside a match, which is really just the telltale sign of an experienced player.
So there's the prelude. And then we're going to add the prelude back. So this is, while I understand locking the sacrifice, I do think Steve probably should have locked the arrester instead. Because you always have the option of your opponent just using the prelude to add back the arrester. Whereas, given that your opponent was on 1 damage, the chance that they were taking like 2 to 3 damage that turn from your attacks was pretty high to begin with. So they didn't really need prelude's like counterblast refunding effect to begin with. Whereas denying them attacker is huge.
I think the prelude was in private, so I think Steve was just hoping that it wasn't there at all and was going to remove both self lockers.
Mm-hmm.
which unfortunately it would appear that in those 2 to 5 draws from the GB2 on Alex's side that he did pull it.
Ooh, Flat and Suffering comes down.
Not just a grade 2 game card, it would appear. Very
Because we know
amazing
that
piece to have
Steve has
information.
burnt one of his Preludes of Genesis early in the game. So there's the Prelude we just saw added back from the Seyfert. So now he can replace this Flat and Suffering with a Self Locker, being the Arrester that he intercepted with, or was it that was attacked earlier. But no, we're going to see the Sacrifice come down instead, which
All right.
implies to me he's got the third Arrester in his hand. There it is.
Yeah, I mean, you can't plan for that on Steve's side.
Mm-hmm. Another Mikani, so Alec there just going to keep gaining even more salty or to draw more cards with. And again, like talking about recycling Arrestas, Steve's burned through I think 3 Valtrosses already, whereas Alec's only seen 1 or 2. So being able to like put Arrestas back with Valtrossa and then get them back later on is also going to be, I think, a big factor in this game if it goes late.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen Alec call the one that he is drive checked
Mm-hmm.
turn 2 ago. So yeah, he still got that as well. Meanwhile, Steve has lost another this turn.
Yeah, and the getting the first stride means that you're also faster to accelerate your crest scaling power, which Steve's on 5 damage. He needs to guard all of this or pray for a defensive OT. He might have drawn a few cards at the end of his own turn, but this is still gonna be quite rough to guard. Yeah, just dropping a
4
whole
cards
bunch
to
of
guard?
cards there. There's the Safer that finally
Great.
comes down, but it might be
That will
too
be
little
live.
too late.
And unfortunately, Steve is out of cards in Soul, so he cannot draw off this unlock.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we've seen, like, the only mechanic we've seen from Steve so far has been the one in his damage, which, yeah, makes it a lot harder to sort of build up that soul. The only advantage Steve might have is that if he can survive this and take the game long, Alec is now at a higher risk of decking out because of how much soul charging and draw he's done.
Yeah, because he's found those mechanics, this is a bit of a double-edged sword. That's why I've seen some people decreasing it in recent ratios.
Mm-hmm. Nope, so we're going to guard with the OT, which I think is a 2 to pass? 28, 38, 48, 53. Yeah, so that's...
Heal is not live.
Okay, so 2 to pass is not... Oh, it was a 1 to pass!
Oh, that was a 1?
Oof. That was really... Oh, 2 heals in hand. Okay, that's kind of rough. Yeah, and I
There we
guess you need those
go.
triggers to guard the rear guard columns, and it's kind of... I mean, at that point, it's almost worth taking the risk and just saying, like, no guard, show me a crit, I'll just heal on you.
Hmm.
But yeah, so Ootman's going to take game 1. And in the matchup like this, Steve losing a game to go being able to choose to go second next round will definitely help give him an edge to come back.
Yeah, we'll see how Ootman's decks that seems to be more structured for the grade 2 game. We'll see how that works out when he's the one going first.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think will be the most important change that Steve makes going into game 2?
I think he's going to understand the value of rushing. Like, damage denial against Messiah, I think, is a strategy that just doesn't really work. The only reason to damage deny Messiah is because their grade 2s on the board are usually so important, you need to get them off. But again, in this mirror match, like, the way you'll want to get them off the board is by binding them through your crest unlock rather than attacking into them. Because if you attack into them, they'll either come back out with Prelude or they'll get recycled with Valtrossa. And sure, you're quote unquote forcing your opponent to commit the resources, but that's resources they've like put into their deck to plan for it, in the same way that you've planned for it yourself. So I think Steve wants to try and take a page from Ootman's book there and be like, okay, going second, I get to draw extra cards and I get the first attack. So I'm gonna try and like rush you down, like 1 or 2 damage in the first few turns, and like bait you into using your like Valtrosses and your pieces to quote unquote like catch up or recoup the way I had to do, which will then hopefully put him in the lead. And I think it's going to be more of a test of Alec side rather than Steve side in that, obviously Alec probably knows how to respond to that, but will he have the pieces? Will he be able to like maintain that grade 2 game and like fight for the first stride like he needs to?
I think that Alec will just fight fight for the grade 2 game until 6 damage. I foresee this game going much further than grade 2 game. I think the player who rides up here is going to try it on that to win on that grade 3 turn. I think that really the GB2 just brings in too much variance for either player to give to the other player.
Yeah, the fact that like if you get the first ride, you get your own GB2 at the end of turn, and you get to GB2 during your opponent's turn before they've even done a single GB2 is absolutely backbreaking. But yeah, talking about like again, like you say, I think Alec will try and push this game to one player like dies on grade 2, but at the same time, I'm not sure if Steve has experience with that. So I think Steve might also, no disrespect to him, but I have a feeling that he might not know how to respond to that, and he might cave under the pressure and just ride up as well. We see the energy cycler, which is very solid.
Draw 3.
Will we see a Seyfert or a Makani though?
Will we see try lane like we did last game from Alec's side?
There's a Makani.
Soul Charge Marstoge.
Second Makani. Okay, so the shoe's very much on the other foot here.
Now
as long as Alec doesn't hit a defensive, this is pretty good going. No defensive.
Okay.
Still no defensive. Double Suffrey goes in as well. So there goes Alec's like comeback tool.
One of his that's 2 Marstoges out for Steve though. So if Steve does end up having to be the one to ride up, I don't know if he'll have the other one to recover. So I can't imagine being on more than, well, maybe he is on 4.
I think most lists are on 4. And he does have he might find a safe third later in the game as well to be able to do like the Energy Blast 6 and draw 3 on the stride play.
Right.
Did Alec counterblast 1 for Panspermia? I think that's only when you guard with it, right?
I believe it's for both costs you can counterblast. For both timings.
So we do find the third Flattened Suffrey to take out a Makani, and then will Alec go Trilane to face, or will he fight back on the Makani? So yeah, we're just going to see Trilane to face.
Opponent sees the defensive, you can always just swing rear with the rear.
Although both players playing around that defensive there. Which there comes through for Alec, for Steve, so...
Defensive front, so now you can't guarantee swinging to the rear for value.
Yeah, we're just going to go 1 to pass on the van. No guard, doesn't hit. Big defensive coming in there for Steve as well. And it's also worth mentioning that Alex used both of his counterblast. So, obviously, like, those players are looking to get the first stride, but I think there's a world where Steve can just go, like, Vanguard into Suffrey, Makani into Makani, and just, punish Alec for, like, committing all his resources. Because then he won't have counterblast with Altrossa.
That's true. But now that he's not used energy, now that they're in the grade 2 game, Alec can call safer and energy charge 1 to energy blast 7 and draw 1.
Ooh, yeah, that's also a huge point as well.
I think that's why he might have used the counterblast.
I think that's what we're going to see. So yeah, grade 2 into Suffrey. I think Alex almost incentivized to guard this in a way. Like, just, no, he's going to let it go. I think if you had it, I would have dropped the trigger there if you had one. Front trigger coming in. This might go into Van now.
Yeah. Might
just
as well.
Make use of the power. Because now it needs to be... It's 20k shield, which is, not live at all. Because the fronts aren't active for either player.
Start working... Oh, it was rear.
Ooh, we are going against the Makani. So yeah, the damage now will play. Just to turn off the Valtrossa, which I don't hate.
I think... because Alec didn't guard that, I think he might have just more pieces in hand.
So there's the safe as you suggested might happen. We are going to see the Energy Blast 7 to draw. And the critical thing here is that this safe is a 10k, so it hits Vanguard.
It's worth noting that Alex still has a Panspermia in hand, but he has nothing to use it, so he will have to take an attack before he can use... Oh, he's just going to call it.
He's just going to call it as a body. 10 into attacking Vanguard first, so he's playing to the front now.
Okay,
No
he's got it.
trigger. Is there a defensive coming in here? No defensive. If that had been another trigger for Steve, this would have been crushing for Alec.
Yeah, because he'd have to swing into Makani, which isn't terrible because I think that Steve just has the pieces to recover.
Absolutely. But this is still going to ask for 5k shield. And we're going to drop the trigger.
Gets 15. That's a huge just step in the right direction for Alec, but still not home free.
Another trigger coming
Another 10.
down. Okay, so this is the big junction here. Is Steve going to ride up, or is he going to be like, oh, you don't want to ride? I don't want to ride. We'll see if whether he can learn from the master, as it were. Yeah, when neither player's going to ride up. There we go.
I think he's been clued into the fact that what I've heard about this mirror match for endless hours for Ootman is it is just grade 2 game to 6 damage.
Yeah.
Which is what I think we can expect to see.
The Valtrossa there is absolutely huge as well. Like, you know, Valtrossa, in a way, like, negates the suffering that came down, really.
Yes, you spend one of your counterblast to get rid of it, I'll CB1 to get a new body. Just exchange resources.
And the Arrester there in the back row is also safe, because if whatever reason, Ootman's deranged enough to run 4 flattened sufferers, it only retires front row.
That's true.
The only thing that I think would be good for Steve here is if he could find like a safer behind the Vanguard. That way he can go 10, like 10 into 10, like the Panspermia, and then 16 into Vanguard, and then the 20k, because Safer would be a 10k booster, would then hit over defensive, which would have been huge. But no, we don't have that, unfortunately, so we'll just
Not
go,
playing to fronts
yeah,
again.
10 into rear.
Will we see damage now again for Valtrosa?
I highly doubt it.
Getting rid of rears first, okay. Playing around defensive front.
I think that's smart, because like when you're grade 2 gaming, you just want to force your opponent to be unable to make board.
Mm-hmm.
So by like continuously attacking rear and forcing Ootman to go into it, the crit as well to even
crit.
out the damage is huge. And Ootman wastes 2 defensives. That is, suddenly the tides have turned.
It'll be interesting to see what pieces Ootman calls now, because
Mm-hmm.
last turn he had to call an energy cycler, which would have been much better as a guard, so that makes me question how many high quality pieces he has to call.
And I think Ootman hasn't seen any arresters on his side of the board either. So like, even if there was a Prelude in hand, it's not like Prelude can reanimate anything of value. So it must be kind of rough here. And again, like, we know that Steve has at least at least one Mars Doge in hand. So like, we know that Steve at least has one piece, like, effectively dead card for now. So the question is, how many dead cards does Alec have?
He's got a decently sized hand still, hasn't been guarding his rears.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, replacing your Riz is just almost the same thing, right?
Yeah, and since he hasn't been guarding, I would be inclined to believe that he has more. Because if he has triggers and not pieces, he would have guarded.
Exactly. Like we saw Steve doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ootman's also forgotten to energy charge up to 6. No, he energy blasted 7 last turn. Yeah. I was going to say, there's also an argument for like, I was going to say to ride up there just to convert all of those dead cards, like, the Mars Doges, the Preludes in his hand, get use out of that safer that he has, and just
He
try
doesn't.
and make something happen. No, nothing. We're just going to see
Oh,
Van
dang.
into Van only. Wow. Wow, that is rough. So either his hand is loaded or it is garbage.
I'm inclined to believe it's just a bunch of perfect guards,
Mm-hmm.
because that could be a reason for not guarding pieces and not having pieces.
Steve with the 1 to pass intercept. A little bit greedy. And Alec hits the huge heal. Or unless, did he attack rear? He might have. Oh no, yeah, so there's the damage. Heal to balance the heal. Very strong indeed.
Countercharge 1.
Alright. So, Steve is now in the driving seat here. The Makani survives, so you can tuck that into Soul, which gives him all of the Soul he needs to be able to play the game. Plus, do the GB2 during opponent's line, as we've seen before.
Now he's the one who's seen 2 this game, so he is going to have plenty of draw. Meanwhile, Alec will be stuck a little bit longer with that hand that I'm very curious to see what is in it.
Steve there using his Safer to ditch the same Master Stage twice for ride and draw. One of the strongest plays Messiah can do, in my opinion. And because of how he's positioned his board here, that Awakening has to come up behind Vanguard, but in this scenario, that's kind of the best place for it to be, right? Like, because your rearguard comms are going to be fairly huge. You've got the Arrester, the Sacrifice. We have to assume he might have an extra Master Stage or an extra Arrester in hand. So being able to make your Vanguard column big and threatening, just like, force that, like, as you mentioned, you're thinking that Alec probably has PGs in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Steve can just say, like, bet, like, show me them.
Drop them. All right, Makani to Soul. I believe that brings up to 6 or 7 Soul.
I think it's 6. Oh my god!
Oh, it's
oh my god! Why, yes, I will draw 4 cards. Oh my goodness. The other thing that Steve can do here, if he wants to be really spicy, if he does think that Ootman's hand is all PGs, when he attacks with Vanguard, he can choose not to unlock the Awakening, because he knows that, like, plus 10k is not going to matter if my opponent's going to PG it, and instead get that 5th draw at the end of turn.
Yeah, because Ootman has not placed anything on rearguard circle denying any draws from Ootman's side of the board, so maybe you just go for the extra draw from your own. Which I think
that's what he's done.
Okay.
I like it. So Sanctitude comes down. A crit here would be so good. PG to survive the next turn. Love to see that.
I think that Steve is definitely playing for the longer game, which he's a much bigger advantage because he won the Grade 2 game.
Absolutely. So this is 33. Not unguardable, but not hitting that defensive on the first damage was a little bit difficult.
Yeah,
2 cards to guard.
2 wasted defensive last turn.
Yeah.
Really would have helped here.
And then this last one he probably takes.
It's just huge.
It is 48. So yeah. We do get the heal, which is live.
Heal.
Definitely can't complain. But now Steve gets to do the thing. So yeah, out goes 5 soul, and he still has, it looks like 1 left? Yeah.
Yeah, it goes down to 1. So that'll be another card to draw because of GB2 on the opponent's turn.
5 cards drawn. Massive burst. This is definitely a reversal of fortunes from game 1. So Ootman's now definitely on the back foot, having to fight his way back up. Which, if anyone can do it, it would be him. Let's see how he navigates this. Master Stage.
+1, and I believe we have the Safer still in drop.
I think he used it previously.
I
think that's the Master Stage he added back with the Safer.
Yeah.
Soul Charge from the Awakening, and then Counterblast 1, lock the Arrester, Awakening. Probably take down one of your opponent's Arresters here, right? Because Steve hasn't shown a Prelude yet.
Yeah. They're at 3. Steve's gonna take another damage, most likely this turn. You don't get too much value out of taking out the boosters.
There is value to taking out Steve's Awakening, though. Because Alex burned a Sanctitude and a PG. Like, he might have 1 more PG left in hand, but if Steve has the Excelix is ready to go to Excelix, this could be rough as well.
Swinging rear, calling for no prelude.
I think if Steve has the Prelude here, intercepting would be a really smart play. Because then you force your opponent to go, like, you take away the opponent's ability to damage an eye, thus making you not need the Prelude. and you can then save the prelude to play to get back the arrest that you just intercepted with.
Hmm. I I thought that Ootman was swinging rear here, but
Mm.
either way, you just take it or intercept with it.
So we're actually going to guard. I guess it's getting value out of those 10k shields while you can.
Yeah, they're not going to become 25s until Excelix.
Mm-hmm. And then 23 coming in here, guarding for 28.
Now, will Steve Soul West 1 for the draw 1?
There's basically no reason not to, so it's a question of does he remember?
Hmm.
Power given from the amnesty, and I think Steve did not catch on.
Both Elementary is now in public.
Yeah. Ladder is huge, the heal is live.
That combined with last turn's defensive heal, that is a way back into the game for Ootman.
Absolutely. Definitely doesn't go amiss here. It's definitely going to be interesting to see whether or not that one drawn card, that one missed card, is going to make a difference for Steve. Crit as well. Woo. Suddenly, a lot of pressure coming down.
Opting for all on the unit that did not receive the Vanguard's effect power, I believe.
So Steve here incentivized to take the 1 and guard the 2. If he can guard the 2. So this 1 is only going to be 35, but the 2 damage is going to be 43.
And because he's on, oh, it would appear that Steve's on a mix of 15k and 10k shields,
Mm-hmm.
10k heals. That's interesting.
But 35 alone is already fairly difficult. Like, that's front plus another card. So those 5 cards that Steve's drawn are definitely going to have to put their work in here.
I'm very curious to see how he does this, because if he's guarding this, it makes me think he may be taking the 2 crit.
Wow.
Okay.
That's too much, isn't it?
Uh, I believe that one of the trigger powers may have been given to this swing.
Oh no, I'm not counting the Awakening. That's what it is. So it's
Okay.
15, 20 with Crest, 30 with Awakening, 50 with the Amnesty. So yeah, that was correct. He needs 40k shield, which he did drop. But then with only 2 triggers, then the one with the crit is what? 15, 20, 28, 38, 48. So
Yeah, that sounds correct.
yeah. So actually they're the same number. And then this is the one with the crit, I believe. But it looks like Steve's trying to guard this as well. Drops the OT.
Pretty good use case for it.
It is. I'm just not sure if it's worth like giving up that information. Like, you know, having your opponent think that the OT might still be in the deck is a bit like it's a really strong mind game tool, even against a player as skilled as Alex.
Now the GB2
So he
during the
does it at the
opponent's
end
turn.
of turn instead. Okay, now realizing that he could have done that.
Still getting the draw, hopefully digging into another soul charge to do it on his own turn.
Mm-hmm. So Alec there with the burst draw, suddenly healthy again. The heal makes it a lot easier for him to like play this defensive game, but in terms of pressure, he's still slightly behind, I think.
Yeah, the crest scaling is just gonna determine,
Mm-hmm.
because Ootman is down 2 PGs already.
Yep.
So that scaling is just gonna be the undoing of whoever runs out of PGs first.
Steve here deciding what to lock with the stride seal. I think there's an argument for the awakening, honestly.
Yeah, just take the 10k out of
Nope,
commission.
we're gonna go for the arrester, but he doesn't have canvas for prelude.
No, no, it does not.
So the important question is, what's he making for another beat stick? Energy blast 7 to draw. We're gonna see the third arrester come down. So we're just gonna see a
Call for it.
Valtrossa.
Fight the deck out a little bit.
There's no arrestor because it's been bound. So the next best thing is probably going to be like next thing. The
Doge.
next maybe Master Doge isn't shielded. You want to start finding shield at this point. So I think there's an argument to recycling the energy cycler. No, we're just not going to recycle anything.
Not recycle anything.
It's going to
Keep
Destiny
that deck.
Dealer.
Keep that
Find
deck
the
thin for
arrestor.
triggers.
Yeah, I think that's also not an awful play again because you know that Ootman's out 2 PGs. So again, like double crit here could just be overwhelming.
Every crit you find matters.
And then finding the alter ego just to set up and threaten the Excelix next turn just tells Ootman like, okay, I need to either go back into the farming mode and like find pieces to survive this Excelix without PG, or I just need to try and win the game here, which when they're both on 3 is a little bit more difficult than normal.
Little troubling for Steve not finding any soul generation here.
Mm-hmm. Steve going with the Arrester column first, not the Lil. It is smaller, but it doesn't self-lock, so I guess he's playing towards what few fronts he has left, and just going to get the 4 attacks instead. Ootman taking this first damage though, which means that any crits now are threatening lethal.
Which will ask for big numbers off of this crest scaling here to 15 to the front row.
So Vanguard alone is 28, 38, 48, 58, 63 with crest. So that's already basically PG territory, unless like Ootman can drop his own OT to match and then guard on top. No, we're gonna see the third PG come down. Saferd being discarded is also really effective. Crit coming in for Steve.
So Ootman would not have been safe if he went for the value no guard.
Mm-hmm. But now I think there's unironically a world where Steve attacks Arrester into Arrester.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, just like you have the crit rear guard, just force like guard this lethal, and then you're boned. Like you have to then either lose an Arrester on top, and you just don't give Steve the free damage. So this is with crest 25, 50, 58 with a crit.
If Stevie's gonna swing mirror, on one hand, swinging with the 2 crit first lets him decide if he wants to push Ootman to 5. However, it also, had Ootman not had the OT, it would have given Ootman the chance to intercept if he was perfect shield value range. So it's a bit of it's more versatile, but less, might not get there.
The payoff is slightly lower, 100%. But again, like Ootman guarding with his own OT there, which is I think is if I'm in Steve's shoes, knowing my opponent guarded with an OT is always reassuring.
For
So
sure.
I think, this was 15, 23, 33, 38. It looked like into rear because he had to drop 40k shield for that. And so like you said, no soul generation means that Steve can't do much. Ootman having to pitch the ladder to stride though. Oh, he does have the safe side.
Oh, okay. The protection effect could be relevant here, just to keep that keep those columns safe.
On the board. No, I 100% agree. Yeah, the soul as well just gives you an extra draw whenever you want it.
Yeah, I think the draw is the more relevant piece of information here because we're going to a third stride turn from Messiah, and I don't think I've seen someone survive that in a long time.
Yeah. But then there's also the question of Ootman decking out, which is a very real possibility here.
Yeah, seems like we're in the teens or tens on deck count.
Ladder, of course, does prevent him from using Prelude.
Takes up order for the turn yet.
So we'll see if he can maybe drop a Mars Doge here. Unfortunately, I don't think Mars Doge's Soul Charge is optional. I think it is mandatory. So if he's going to go for the Mars Doge for numbers, he's going to lose an extra card out of deck for that. Mikani instead.
Mikani. Still card out of deck, but not as good of a number. But it's another 2 soul instead of Mars Doge's 1.
Yep. So sacrifice there. Only works on boost, not on attack. There's only going to be 4 attacks, not 5 this turn. But as you said, Steve not having that second stride turn's worth of burst draw compared to Alec, who will be able to draw 2 to 3 cards. I think Steve's still in a position to survive this. Like, he can take this rear guard, PG the Vanguard that we know with the PG that we know he has. But no, he's going to guard this one instead, and then like PG the Vanguard swing, and then he can still probably take one of the rear guard swings, like unless double crit comes down.
I'm just thinking, maybe Alec just doesn't care about the deck out and just says, I'm going to win either this turn or next turn, and just stops caring about it and just tries to live to next turn.
Yeah, I think that's also. I mean, again, like his hand is 5. He'll draw 2 to 3 to go up to like 7 or 8 at the end of this turn. His thought process could just be like, I'm gonna if I don't win before I deck you up before deck out, I will just lose anyway, so it doesn't matter. Let's not place that, which is also I think acceptable.
Very valid thought process right there.
So this is 28, 38, 48, 53. So solid PG territory, although get the trick out. Steve no guarding there. He's gonna get punished with double crit.
Here's the first one on the first check. We got 2 more.
Ooh, barely gets through. We can see the last heal come out. No, the 4th heal does not come down. We do see the last arrestor come down.
That is troubling.
Steve also equally low on deck as well. Maybe even lower because he saw the double Makani early on.
A bit hard to tell because of the dark sleeves.
I think that's definitely less than 10.
Yeah, that's less than 10. Okay, so it seems like we're going to see this game come to a close one way or another within the next turn or 2.
Absolutely, but this is still a column. Like, it's 15, 23, 33, 43, 48, and I assume the Omnis Power went there, which would make it 63, which is definitely PG territory, or like 3 to 4 triggers. And I'm not sure Steve has that.
Steve did not draw last turn off because of no soul generation. This could be rough.
Looks like Steve only has like 3 or 4 cards in hand as well, so he's definitely going to need to take at least one of these and bank on that 4th heal coming down.
We'll see if that happens.
And then the sacrifice is going to be what? 18 on its own, 28, 33 minimum. Wow, everything coming down there to guard that.
That is a lot, so it's do or die.
Yep. Steve there left with like, looks like 3 cards after that.
I believe so. Swinging into...
It would make sense to go to Van, because you got the lethal swing. 33 is also slightly awkward.
And you just saw a whole bunch of triggers come out, so maybe he just doesn't have it.
Oh, this is definitely the do or die. Oh, there are the triggers. There we go. Okay, so I think with that amount of guarding, it means that the amnesty power went to the sacrifice.
Yeah.
But regardless, Steve will barely live this turn.
Which I think is do or die, thanks to that deck size and hand size.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he can't really get any more soul generation to get any more draws without decking out.
Ootman, meanwhile, will push the GB2 to its full extent. Just try and survive Steve's last stand. Of course, obviously if Ootman survives, then he wins the game, because then Steve just decks out.
It all comes down to this turn.
11 cards in hand is very healthy.
And still at 4.
There's the Excel. Oh, not Excelix. Okay.
Excelix.
It's interesting because there's an argument that the crit from Excelix is worth the pressure, but maybe he's just going for the power gain off the amnesty instead.
He does know that Ootman has all 3 PGs out, so one crit on a trigger, one crit trigger could make a barely unguardable number.
Mm-hmm. And that's assuming that Ootman has to PG the Vanguard as well, which is also a very real possibility. But yeah, it's like you've got the extra 5k front row buff from Amnesty flipping with the crit, and you've also got the fact that it can give anywhere upwards of 25k to a single column, which is also just PG or die territory. As opposed to Excelix, which is only 10k to front row. Like,
It
Excelix on
would be
this turn would only be like an overall 35k buff to front row, because 5 GB5 plus the 10k from Excelix. You know, 35 on top of like your sacrifice columns is not massive. It's only like 40, 50Ks.
yeah,
Especially because we have no booster here either.
that is problematic. Won't matter on the second swing given Vanguard power, but right now that is
Mm-hmm.
just less than ideal.
But then here's where
Man's
the Awakening behind Vanguard now makes a difference, because with Excelix, the crit on the Excelix means you have to PG the Excelix, whereas there was a way for Ootman to like greedily no-guard the Vanguard column, and the extra 10k from the Awakening, I think, is going to be one who's like, okay, it's now even hard for me to manually guard. I am not incentivized to use the PG anymore, because then I don't have the crit, but I might need to PG anyway because I have that extra 10k.
Yeah, I think Ootman is safe to take this based on his deck size, but the
Mm-hmm.
only danger there being Steve having a Valtrosa in hand. Or two in hand next turn.
Mm-hmm. So we are going to see this being guarded, which I think also makes sense. Like, he's just trying to guard as efficiently as he can. This is the smallest attack. It's the one
If
that
there is,
definitely guaranteed doesn't kill him.
if there isn't a critical trigger, he can just take the big 80k or so.
Yep.
So I can't knock that.
Yep. So that's stuff locked. So we're going to see an unlock too. So it's going to be plus 10k off the
Plus
amnesty.
10.
So when you consider that it's plus 10k to one unit and plus 5k to effectively 5k to 3 units off of the crest, that amnesty is only better than the Excelix by 5k power.
And one less attack.
One less attack and one less crit. So maybe the Excelix would have been better here. So there's the PG as we expect it to come down. Do we see the crit? No, just 3 blanks.
So Ootman is just free to take. Steve's deck is down to 3 cards, I want to say.
3 or 4. Yeah, this is up to now 20, 30, 40, 50k. It's not impossible, but as we said,
Might as
Uber
well
can
take
definitely
if you
take
can.
one of them, yeah. No defensive, though.
I think his hand is just healthy enough to guard this though.
Yeah. And again, having not seen any other Soul generations, Steve is going to be hard pressed to survive Alex's incoming turn as well,
I think
regardless of deck out.
even with one Soul Generation, I think that 2 cards out of deck would have taken him to deck out anyway, so I think it just had to be this turn. Because you Soul Charge 1 to draw 1.
Yep.
So it's for every draw, it's 2 out of deck. So I think, yeah, it just had to be here.
4 cards left in deck for Ootman. I believe the draw off of the Master Doge is mandatory, so he needs to basically go into Excelix here, or discard Prelude,
Or just Struggle Stride with 2 and a 1.
which is also not unreasonable given how huge his hand is.
And Overtrigger's out of deck, so no possibility of deck out on the triple drive.
Yeah.
Fronts.
He's just debating how he wants to handle this turn, seeing what's out of Steve's deck, what he might possibly have left.
The situation seems to be in your very good for Ootman here if you're Ootman, but I think taking your time here and just playing around any outs that Steve may have is just worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Just to secure your situation.
Like, I think Steve still has a PG that's not been seen, a fourth heal that's not been seen, so there are options, but most of them do involve Steve decking out or finding Valtrossa in some way.
Mandatory draw from Mars Doge, as you said.
Probably take out the Awakening here, yeah.
I'm expecting to see Valtrosa because Ootman's down to 3 cards in deck.
How many has he seen is the question. I think there probably is still one left. I'd be surprised if there wasn't.
Otherwise, I think we would have seen Struggle Shred with a 2-1 or something of the sort.
Yep, there it
Yeah.
is. Can Valtrossa put back another Valtrossa? I think it can, right? Or does it have to be a different
I believe
name?
so. I believe so.
Hmm. Oh, never mind. He's just got a second
Yeah.
Valtrossa.
Yeah, that works.
Oh
Yeah, it
yes,
can
there he
put
is.
back.
Yep. So the first, yeah, the second one put the first one back, and then Prelude to get back his Arrester over the sacrifice rather than making column. Oh, because he has another Arrester already.
Two
Okay.
resters, yeah.
Yep, that works.
That makes sense.
I feel like rather than do that, there was probably a world where the first Valtrossa puts back an Arrester and then counterblast one to guarantee call that Arrester out from the top 4 cards of your deck, and then the second Valtrossa puts one back again.
I feel like that just takes another card out of deck when I believe Ootman might have a 4th heal in deck.
Right, so he could still technically have another turn after this.
Yeah. Just play around all the possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, the probability of Steve living this turn is already super low to begin with. It's so weird because it feels like in the first few turns, Steve had like this massive tempo swing, like he was in the lead, and then I'm not sure like at what point he fell behind because like he had more soul, he got the first stride.
I think it happened with the 2 heals, defensively and
Mm,
offensively, just in a row.
yeah, just
Just
giving Alex
giving.
that extra time to like nickel and edge his way back into that lead. Yeah, it's definitely like death by 1,000 cuts, which you know just goes to show like the amount of expertise he has with this deck and with the matchup, and just knowing like, okay, this is how I do it. Like, I'm never gonna burst my way back to the front. It's just gonna be like slowly creeping forward. And then here we go, the
Big
lines
number.
coming in. Steve dropping his last PG.
That's all 4. Second one
No
we've seen this turn.
triggers. I don't think it matters here.
I can't imagine his hand being healthy enough to guard these 2 sides.
Gonna take the last damage, and it's not the heal. Yeah, the bottom of his deck is just 2 more preludes. No more heals left in the deck. Last one probably in hand, but not enough to guard. So, yeah, Ootman there defending his crown as Messiah's strongest soldier, pushing Owl Coop into the lead with a 4-2 at the end of game 6. That was I think that was absolutely a masterclass there in how to play Messiah for anyone watching at home. Like, just be patient, just like play to your outs, just like know exactly what goes where. And I think like credits to Steve, like as we said, he learned very quickly, like, oh, I need to grade 2 game here. Oh, I can, GB2 on my opponent's turn here. So like very well played from him as well. I think like you said, let's like in game 2, the triggers favored Alec a little bit more.
Yeah.
Game 1, like his pieces and going second just favored him a little bit more. And it was just a huge shame that Steve wasn't able to capitalize on any point he had an advantage. And
Yeah.
Ootman there just shown that like he is skilled enough to be able to claw his way back to victory.
Yeah, really just impressive showing for both players. Just really just adapting to the game as it came and
Mm-hmm.
making the correct choices where they had to.
Yeah.
Sadly, it just didn't go Steve's way for some of it, but he really played well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't think he made very many mistakes there at all. Like, maybe like a few suboptimal locks with the stride
Yeah,
skill, but beyond that, it's just a case of like Steve knows
preference.
his outs and play to them, and nearly hit them as well. Like, I think if we had just seen like one more trigger come down from any of Steve's drive checks, he could have definitely swung the other way. And yeah, it's just really, really close, but well played to both players. And that is going to be it for now. Once again, thank you to Demiios for joining us on this. Very, very fun match to see. And yeah, as always, if you want to follow up on whatever he's doing, all his social will be down in the description. But until then, that is going to be it for Game 6 of the VPL. There are still 3 more to go, so stay tuned, and we'll see you all next time. Take care. Peace out.